which was a big regret because I ended up spending more in the long term adding additional components to this. I did drill out the lid for the conical. I put a gas barb again. Brewers Hardware is generally my go-to for fittings. They have this would be a output for a tri-clamp fitting, and I hook that up here, and I can do pressure transfers. Works out real slick. Over here I have CO2. This is kind of the Chuck Norris of CO2 connections over here. I use it to clean kegs. I use it to pressure transfer on the fermenters. It's just kind of a one-stop shop. The Unitank, no real adds here. I did replace their barb fitting for oxygen with a tri-clamp. I think it's 3/8. You'd have to measure it when you pull it out. That barb comes off. Again, it worked better for the setup with SS Brewtech's oxygenation system. With the CO2 setup with the output for the keg attachment there. Down here, I have the controllers for the fermenters, color coded, working real slick. I'll show you guys in a second. They're Chill Source. The sight glasses are just because, again, I have an addiction to stainless steel and I like watching the process. So, for those of you that aren't using the sample coil on the Unitank, I think you're missing out. I think I got a gift card for a birthday or other. I guess I wouldn't have probably spent the money on it, but it does a real nice job, especially when this fermenter is under pressure, allowing you to open up the sample valve and not making a huge mess. On the back side here, I have the quick disconnects. I think they're from ABS plastics, but the Anywheres, they're the no drip plastic disconnects. I've been real happy with that. I do have them exposed for about a foot, and then they go into pipe insulation to keep them cold because they're running all the way through the bar and then into the closet, which we can show you. Now in the closet, I haven't quite finished the layout of this, but we have a refrigerator set up for our kegs. Our kegs are coming through the wall here. I'm recirculating cold water from a pot in the bottom of the refrigerator as well to keep those lines cool. And then buried way back here in this mess, I have a chest freezer that I got off Craigslist. I'm not going to dig that out. But in there I have 20 gallons of glycol buried in the bottom. It basically allows me to do whatever I want with these tanks. I can drop them to freezing, near freezing in probably 10 minutes if you actually wanted to do that and hold. So I don't like the neoprene jackets. I think there's moisture issues with those, and with it being out in the main space of my house, I just chose not to put those on, which was why I had to go so large on the quantity for the glycol. Up top, restaurant store, I just got a stainless steel shelf, works out real slick for holding some of my pH water testing meters and some of my yeast starter stuff. Now, I did just get for Father's Day tilt, which I didn't know if I'd actually need or want. Guys, I gotta say, it's my new airlock. I like watching the data that comes in. It's this little guy here. I had an iPad that my kids broke, so I mounted that to the wall. And with Bluetooth in either of these tanks, I have zero issues with connectivity via Bluetooth to that little tilt. And I've been quite impressed. Some of the ancillary items on the brew rig. Put the plate chiller back here. Again, just hangs up on the Edamental stand. No reason for it other than it looks cool. I went with the hood from Fast Hoods out of Canada. They did a fantastic job. I ordered it custom, and after we finalized the plans, I think it took them about 2 weeks to get it to me. It was real quick. On the outside of the house, I have a 600 CFM fan mounted out there. Switch over here on the wall. And then those, just a spring-loaded door will open up once the fan comes up to speed. So works out real good. And then probably my biggest add for the space comes under the cabinet here. Get you a flashlight. So under here, you saw the hoses back by the fermenters, but I have my oxygen bottle and my CO2. Now I decided to mount them with the kids running around the house and getting into stuff, just a fire extinguisher mount. that you'd mount in any like restaurant. You can get them online pretty cheap. I think they're 20 bucks. And there would be no reason obviously to cover up the tank bottles. I have a neoprene sleeve over them. The idea was originally we were going to mount them more by the fermenters, but I just found it got too cluttered and I didn't like the kids manipulating the oxygen and the CO2 while I was trying to pressurize the unit tank. The other biggest thing I did for this addition, which has helped me out a ton, I added a hot water source and a cold water source for a garden hose under here with a tri-clamp fitting. So I use this to clean, I use this to fill my kettles, I use this for my chill source, for my plate chiller, and even better here, when we built the addition, I have my cold water source is actually hard water, and then my hot water source is soft water, so I get a nice clean on the kettles, but then I can use my hard water when I want to fill the tanks, fill the mash tun and hot liquor tank for brew day. Now with this, again, I run it into my plate chiller. I have an adapter to go to the quick disconnects up there. And if I was doing a redo on this build, it's one thing, and I eventually will head that way with all tri-clamp, but my local brew store, when I got into brewing, was using these quick disconnects, which work fine. But they get sticky, they're hard to clean, and it wouldn't be my preference now that we've been brewing for quite a while. Also down here, again, same thing with that garden hose. I got my filter. I'm a big fan of this. I actually saw a huge change in my beer when we started going to this here about 5-6 years ago. We use about half to about 70% of our city water, and then use distilled the rest of the way and build back up the minerals depending on what type of beer we're doing. I have my inlet here for the garden hose, again, to fill it. And then my output, I mentioned earlier that I have real long lines on these bleeder hoses for the pumps. And all I do is I unplug one of the bleeder hoses, plug it up here for the output of the filter, and then I can run water into either kettle via my piping here, which is real slick. I manipulate the valves to fill the hot liquor tank, and then I close one valve and it fills the mash tun. And I don't, again, it's all about not having to unplug stuff while we're moving water around so I don't tick the wife off and ruin the floor. We talked about the hood, stuff under the cabinet, the closet, and the brew rig itself. For those of you that are looking to build a setup like this, I know rigid tools aren't the favorite in the industry, but I'll tell you what, I think I went through 2.5 drills, and Home Depot's customer service and warranty policy is real good. If you're going to try to drill these pots out yourself, I went through about 6 unibits. And again, about 2.5 drills later, we got through these kettles. I hope you enjoyed the video. And again, once we get back to a brew day, I'll put out another video with process and actually with all the plumbing in place. Thanks for your time.